Everyone, and this is our belief, should have 30 to 40% of their asset that should be their properties, if not more.
If you have 1 million euros, they're going to pay you at least 6% of your investment yearly.
What would I expect to encounter on my journey towards purchasing a property? What would you advise me I should look out for?
With a significant low deposits, you can get a property that finances itself.
They say that the property where you live is a liability, and the property that you rent is actually an asset.
So you give me 1 million euros, every year I'm going to give you 60,000 euros.
So we're not taking this step, buying into a property that is an income generating asset and that will bring capital appreciation.
Alex Montier, thanks for sitting down and talking to me about the three valleys in the French Alps. Iconic destination, I'm quite sure the biggest interconnected ski domain in the world, holds 8 different resorts. I won't ask you to name them all because we're going to focus on a couple today that are popular with our clients, our audience, and with Athena itself. So what would be good is if we can just start from the very beginning. I've never been to the three valleys, so I'm really interested to just hear your general introduction to it to somebody that has never been but would love to go.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. The three valleys, as you say, largest ski area in the world with 600 kilometers of piste. It really encompasses everything that you would be looking for within a ski domain. So whether it's small, cute villages, high altitude resorts with guaranteed snow, nightlife, restaurants, cuisine. I mean, there is something for everyone in the three valleys, and all or most resorts within just over maybe 2 hours of Geneva Airport. So connectivity is pretty good. And it's really for you as a skier to pick what you're into. So if it's, skiing and you want guaranteed snow, you might go to Val Thorens. If it's nightlife and cuisine, you might go to Courchevel 1850. If it's for more family time and even a ski resort that is as good in the summer and the winter, you might look at Maribel. So there's something for everyone.
What's your personal experience of it? Can you remember the first time you went?
So my personal experience was I learned to ski in Courchevel 1850. And this was a long time ago, so 35 years ago. And a very different resort then. Yeah, I've got really fond memories of the Jardin Alpine ski area, which is the kind of nursery slopes of Courchevel 1850. And I even managed to break my wrist snowboarding for the first time. I'm a skier, but I tried snowboarding, broke my wrist, and then never went back again.
You're missing out. You're missing out on the ultimate, if you ask me. You said it was a very different ski resort then. How would you say it has changed over time?
It's taken a character of its own, really. I mean, with the influx of very wealthy buyers from all around the world, it's gone from maybe a resort that was, I would say, fairly traditional old school French to extremely international. The prices are pretty crazy, and I would say with that, we're not within reach of the average buyer. So really, as a company, we haven't been so involved in the Courchevel 1850 market, but more in the resorts like Courchevel 1650 and 1550, where you can still access the whole ski domain, but the prices are roughly half of what they are in 1850.
Maybe you could just break down for people who have not been, is there 4 villages in Courchevel? We'll start with Courchevel because obviously there's loads of resorts and so on that we can talk around within the three valleys, but Courchevel is the avant-garde of the entire French Alps, if I'm right in saying. It is the premium destination in terms of price anyway, and maybe in terms of history, but there's 4 villages?
I'll just pick you up on that in the sense that, yes, 1850 is premium ski resorts, but also you have other resorts like Megève, I would say, a lot lower down in terms of altitude, obviously not part of the three valleys, but that is definitely a kind of old school French style resort where a lot of the sort of wealthy French families have traditionally been going. 1850, yes, it used to be that. I would say now it's much more just an international hangout for the super rich. And those from Monaco and that kind of vibe. So as you say, whilst you go down, so Courchevel 1650, Courchevel 1550, Le Prat, there you have different options, better pricing, I would say. Obviously, you're not at that sort of 1850 altitude, but you do access the whole of the ski domain. And that's where we've seen as a company real value, whereas 1850, in our opinion, is maybe a little overpriced.
With that in mind, how much in detail can you take me if I was to ask you a question about Courchevel, or is there, out of these resorts, and we'll start with Courchevel, how far into it in terms of price per square metre, the type of properties that are available there, any sort of capital appreciation or rental yields, these sort of nuggets of information, if they can be included, or if it can just be about architecture and so on and so forth? Is there an area there that would be within your wheelhouse to talk about?
On a sort of broad spectrum, when you're looking at the three valleys, price per square metre can vary between 8,000 euros a square metre up to 45,000 and excess of that. So you really have a huge spectrum to look at, basically. And where you're seeing the really, really high prices would be Courchevel, close to the piste and in prime locations, and there anything 40,000 excess. And again, in Maribel also, there are projects that are, let's say, very well positioned, close to the slopes, and again, their prices are pushing the 30,000 euros, 35,000 euros a square meter. Interestingly, in Maribel, there is an argument to say that those prices, in a way, could be justified. And speaking with a developer recently, the town hall have taken the decision to not allow any new developments. So really what developers are working on is either existing buildings or existing hotels that then have to be cut up into apartments and sold. So what you're seeing is, yes, you've got a high price per square meter, but where there is demand and then a lack of supply, in a way it kind of justifies those prices. Now, if those prices are really out of reach, where we're seeing additional value, I would say, is maybe in smaller satellite villages that are connected to these big resorts, either by a ski lift, and for the most part by a ski lift, I would say maybe one ski lift, but at least then you access the whole domain, but the prices are significantly lower. So an example I would give is, yes, you could be a Maribel close to the slope and paying 35,000 euros a square meter, but if you drop down to Méribel-les-Allues, which is a satellite village of the Maribel ski area, their prices of a project that we're selling at the moment are around the sort of 12,000 euros a square meter mark. So there's a huge difference. You're accessing the same skiing, you're just in a slightly different location, and you're seeing a lot of value in a smaller resort compared to maybe being in the prime areas of Maribel. Then that leads on to rental. So your rental yield may be compromised by a very high price per square meter, but you're not going to have any problems renting it because of the location. In Méribel-les-Allues, it's not a prime location, but because of the price per square meter, the rental yield is going to kind of balance out. So in terms of rental yields, you're looking at probably anywhere between, let's say 3.5% net rental yield. But that obviously can fluctuate.
So basically these satellite villages are a little bit like buying not in London, but in one of the commuter towns just outside of London, where you still get the easy access straight into the centre of a metropolitan city in terms of the London analogy. In terms of the three valleys, you still have access to everything that the domain has, but by removing yourself from the location, you're able to buy something that's essentially going to be a much higher value in terms of its quality and aesthetic for your available budget.
Yes, I think that's not a bad analogy, and also, we have clients that don't want to be in the centre of Maribel. They want to be in these satellite villages, which are a little bit quieter. And another example I can give you is a village called Le Raffort, and that again is linked by a lift to Maribel. It sits just below Maribel. It's a very cute little hamlet with a pretty little church. All the chalets there are being renovated. I mean, there's a lot of building work going on there, and it's becoming its own kind of, let's say, slightly exclusive little enclave. And there's definitely an attraction to that. But of course, when people have young kids, they want to access, everything that a resort has to offer. And, they can just jump on their skis and ski from their chalet or an apartment. There's also an appeal to that. So, it's this sort of balance between how far do you want to go, how much do you want to pay, and how much also space do you want to sacrifice being in that sort of prime location compared to being a little bit further out. And that's something that we help clients with and we can advise on.
If you were to look through Athena Advisors' portfolio of property in the three valleys now, what sort of property would you find there? Which ones excite you? And is there any of these villages, satellite or central, that we find to be the most popular at the moment for our clients?
Yeah, so at the moment there's one in particular which I think is very interesting. I already mentioned Méribel-les-Allues. It's on a great plot, great views. Méribel-les-Allues itself has everything that you want. It's got the restaurants, it's got the ski shops. It's a kind of smaller version of Méribel. And again, there's a lift there that connects you straight into the ski area. And you're paying 12,000 euros a square meter, which I think in time will appreciate in value because, again, if you're looking at a resort like Méribel, you can't really build any more there. And there's that demand for property where people are going to start looking on the periphery. And that's where an area like Les Allues or Le Raffort, for example. And also we have another great project in Le Raffort, which is a collection of small independent chalets by one of our favorite developers in the French Alps. And again, that's got reasonable prices per square meter. It's being built to a super high spec. And again, that's a project that excites me. It's on the fringes, the price is reasonable, and I can see some real capital appreciation going forward in the next 5 to 10 years.
What's the difference between the sort of properties that we promote and the other properties that are available in the market? Essentially, what meets an Athena Advisors standard criteria for a property in the three valleys?
I think, first of all, what we're looking for is the right developer. And we've been working in the French Alps for over 20 years. So, we have very deep, I would say, relationships with a lot of these developers who we've been working with for a number of years. And so what we've seen them produce, obviously, is what we like. And therefore, we feel very confident in selling it. So first of all, there's a track record. With projects, we're also looking for the right location. And there's no point in trying to commercialize or sell something that is, let's say, too far away from where people want to be, because from a rental point of view, it's not going to stack up. And also from an investment point of view, I think it's not as it's a pretty weak proposition. So you need to be, and this is a really real cliche thing to say, but location, right? That's what speaks. And then what else are we looking for? I would say also reliability. So if the developer says that it's going to be built in a certain time, we need to be sure that that's the case. And that plays back to our relationships with these developers, working with them on projects over the last 20 years, having trust in their method, and feeling confident that our clients are going to make a good investment.
If I was a young family and I had a €2 million budget and I was looking to buy in the three valleys, and buying for all of the obvious reasons of wanting to be able to have a second home out there, somewhere that I can rent, but ultimately somewhere that I can create fond, beautiful family memories and watch my kids grow up and learn to ski and snowboard, where would you be advising and pushing me towards first?
with that sort of criteria, 3 options or 3 resorts immediately stand out, I think. The first being Courchevel 1650. So you're just below 1850. You are connected to that big ski area. We work with a developer who we've worked with for a number of years, and he has currently an interesting project, or a couple of interesting projects in that resort that would perfectly fit that sort of 2 million budget, young family, and yes, I think that would be a very interesting place to look at. You aren't paying the crazy 1850 prices, and I think 1650 definitely there will be, there's an aqua center in the resort, so that's great for kids, and it's more than just a kind of stopover before you get to 1850. It's really its own resort now. Another resort that I think is just exceptional is Saint-Martin-de-Belleville. Very different vibe to Courchevel. Traditional ski village, very beautiful, completely unspoilt, and there you can really, look to set up I would say a sort of family legacy in that resort, where you'll be coming for years upon years. You'll never get bored of the skiing. You're part of the Three Valleys ski area. You're in the same valley than Les Menuires, which is arguably not the prettiest, but at least you kind of get that high altitude, plus going up to Val Thorens at 2,300 meters, the highest point being 3,200. So you're pretty much always guaranteed snow, and the views are exceptional. And yes, there are a number of projects there that at the sort of €2 million mark, whether it be a sort of half chalet apartment or a converted grange or something like that, there are options to look at for sure. And then another one that I mentioned before was Les Alleux, Méribel-les Alleux, or Le Raffort. And there are some good options. And at that 2 million mark, young family, being close to the slopes in Méribel, it's going to be difficult. You're not gonna find that space, so you're going to have to push your budget up higher. So those are the sort of 3 options that I would probably look at first in the Three Valleys.
You just come back from a trip to Saint-Martin-de-Belleville?
Yeah, amazing, incredible, beautiful. I mean, we arrived on blue sky with the team. We walked around the different projects that we've got there. It's I think it's actually the first time that I've been to Saint-Martin, but out of season, so off season. And even off season, it was a magical place. And the drive from Montier up the valley towards Saint-Martin is extremely beautiful. And when you arrive there, I think it's a very special place.
The talk about the summer season seemed particularly strong because last year, obviously, there was a lot of question. There was some bad press. The mountains got some bad press for a period during January, I think it was, February, when there wasn't too much snow and there was a bit of a worry about it. What's the state of the market in your eyes this year? How has it been? What excites you about moving forward? And I think it's a good time to ask that question because it's been such a great start to the winter season, right?
So I think you're right. It's been a great start. Early snow is always a great boost, and my Instagram feed is just full of people skiing powder. And that hasn't been the case for a number of years at this time of the year. And it really is just almost overload in terms of, it's amazing there's snow in the Alps. But that's not an unusual thing. I think when it comes to kind of snow fall, it's pretty cyclical. I mean, at the moment, it's unusual to have a lot of snow in Europe and a lot of snow in America. So in the States, normally, the two aren't always correlated, and you might have a lot of snow in the States and everyone's saying, oh, it's amazing over there, and then there's not so much in Europe. But at the moment, we seem to have a lot of snow in both locations. And for sure, it's a scientific fact that, the snow line is creeping up. And therefore, people are looking at high altitude ski resorts. I would say, though, that for me, the most important thing is just to be able to access that high altitude skiing. So even if you're in a village which isn't, let's say, super high, for the most part, they have snow cannons that allow you to come down to the resort level if it's cold enough, which it normally is in the winter. And then at least then you can access, if you want to, and the ski domain allows it, resorts or skiing that maybe is a little higher. So that would be my kind of snow piece. On the market, for obvious reasons, we've faced challenges, whether it's inflation, cost of living, and I think the biggest one has been interest rates. So with interest rates that have gone precipitously higher, and also in a very short period of time, it has taken banks and also clients off guard. So a lot of people have kind of looked at that and maybe put the brakes on. It doesn't mean that cash buyers have been put off. I mean, they're still strong buyers in the market, and especially at a sort of high value. The market is still, there is that, again, element of a not a huge amount of supply, and there is the demand. So there is high demand. And the developers, we went out into season last month, and there's a lot of building work. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of things going on in the Alps. So for sure that hasn't stopped. It's just that we are facing at the moment this kind of hurdle of interest rates, which possibly will come down and maybe give people further confidence. But it does seem to be slightly putting a brake on things at the moment.
Could you describe our working relationship with French private finance for people that don't know? Because I don't think it's something that many people are too aware of.
Yes, so at Athena, our aim is to cover everything under one roof. And French private finance fits into that very well and is actually an extremely useful service for our clients. So essentially what it is a sort of a brokerage between our clients and then the French banks. So French private finance aren't tied to one particular bank. They work with a panel of banks. And when a client is looking at financing and wants to borrow, they can approach French private finance, who will then match them with the relevant bank. And the bank that fits most, fits best their requirements. And so it's extremely useful tool for our clients.
So it essentially makes a quite intricate, complex process simple and more of a seamless experience for our clients through dealing with us.
Yes, correct.
What are the most frequently asked questions or misconceptions that you get from clients on a day-to-day basis?
Frequently asked questions, i.e. requirements?
It could be requirements. It could be the ski in, ski out. It could be budget. It could be, destination advice itself. It could be understanding property valuation and so on. But is there anything that comes to your mind when I say to you, what's the question that you're like, oh, here it is again. Oh, here it is again. That you feel that there's either maybe a misconception or just a lack of knowledge about the mountains or even the buying process?
Yeah, so I think in terms of requirements, like you say, I mean, ski in, ski out comes up a lot, as well as hot tubs on the terrace. So that's an extremely big requirement. Nothing to do with skiing, but people seem to be very keen on a hot tub, and to the point where they're looking at kind of reinforcing balconies just so that they can put a hot tub on that. read what you want into that, but and misconceptions. Difficult to answer that, I think.
Most of our clients probably own 1, 2, 3 properties that they can go and value themselves because they've, they live amongst cities or countryside where they own these properties. The mountains is it's a microeconomy, right? It's a microeconomic system. It's very different. It's very alternative in so many ways. So there must be a knowledge gap there between what people think they understand, but they don't. Then they get there and they're like, oh, right, actually, this is wildly different from what I thought it was. Because if I think, for example, even talking about finance just then, people are like, whoa, interest rates. And yeah, interest rates are scary and so on. But is there more of a secure long-term asset than a property in one of the most beautiful, iconic destinations in the entire world? And that's with it covered in snow or covered in sunshine with not a drop of snow on the ground. So I think, even can be a bit misconception where people are like, oh no, it's suddenly dangerous to invest in the Alps. It's like, it's always going to be a secure place. Like the mountains all around the world are some of the most beautiful terrain you can possibly wish to visit. And the Alps has the best infrastructure to access that. So it's always going to be a great long-standing bet. So yeah, any sort of area, or when you're on the phone to clients, that you feel that you're having to provide a similar education about something that they either have got wrong or just don't know anything about?
Dealing with the French is not always easy. Having said that, it's a system and process that's extremely well set up to protect the buyer. And so by coming to a company like Athena, where again, as I said, everything is covered under one roof, I would say from a contractual point of view and a buying process point of view, that's something that we obviously are very well adept at helping with. And we've had a lot of experience, and most of our clients are UK clients or clients that are around the world buying in France for the first time. And again, and that is something that I think a lot of people need their hand held throughout that process, which is from A to Z, and everything from signing the reservation contract, placing the deposit, working with the right notary, working on the floor plans, interior design, and all of that is covered within in-house at Athena. We don't charge for it. And that is definitely, I think, possibly a misconception that clients have, where maybe it's not just about finding the right property. It's everything that goes behind that, and all the work involved in all those choices and all those right pieces of advice that you need to make that process as seamless as possible. And that's definitely that's definitely an area, I think, where we really add real value.
Best powder today?
Really, really special, memorable moments in terms of powder skiing was when I did a ski season about 30 years ago. And there, when you do a season, you get those 10 or 15 perfect days. So it's, you have to be out there for 4 or 5 months to get those 10 or 15 perfect days. And I obviously got those whilst I was doing the season. So any of those days were just, completely magical.
That was all in Courchevel?
That was the Val d'Isère.
Do you do Courchevel season as well?
No, I just did one in Val d'Isère. 30 years ago, worked in Pierre et Vacances, 190 skis, and with some friends, shared a flat, and we just had an off-piste guide book, and every day we would just pick a route and go and ski it.
Oh, that sounds so fun. Okay, next one we'll talk about Val d'Isère. Alex Montier, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Neil.